All right, so are you ready to like really dive deep with me into the world of money?
I'm ready.
Not like the basic stuff you find in, like every personal finance book out there,
Right, right.
but the unspoken rules,
Yes, yes.
the things that can really make a difference.
Yeah, those hidden gems.
Exactly.
The stuff they don't teach you in school.
Yeah.
Like those little secrets, those unwritten rules that can really put you ahead of the game.
Exactly.
I love it.
So we're taking cues from this fascinating podcast I was listening to called Fayzzonomics.
Oh, yeah. Fayzzonomics. I've heard of that one.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
yeah. And they take a global view of all this,
Oh, very cool.
exploring these unwritten rules
Mhm.
with examples from the US, Canada, and even Dubai.
Wow, Dubai. That's an interesting perspective to throw in there.
Yeah, it's really cool to see how these rules like play out in different, cultural and economic contexts.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
It really highlights the universal principles at play.
Absolutely.
Okay, so rule number 1,
Okay, hit me with it.
income means nothing without cash flow,
Ooh, that's a good one.
right?
I have a feeling this is about more than just, making a lot of money.
Yeah, it definitely is.
It's not just about the big paychecks, right? It's
Right.
about what you actually get to keep.
Exactly.
It's about understanding that there's a big difference between what you earn and what you actually have left at the end of the month.
The podcast highlighted this with a really interesting example, they said.
Oh, I love a good example. Let's hear it.
Someone making $150,000 in New York City could be struggling more than someone making $70,000 in a smaller city.
Whoa, wait a minute. How is that even possible? $150,000, that's a lot of money.
Right.
You'd think they'd be living the high life.
You would think.
But you're telling me they might actually be worse off than someone making less than half that amount in a smaller city.
Yeah, it all comes down to cost of living.
Cost of living, that sneaky little devil.
Right.
It can really make or break your budget.
In a place like New York City, expenses like rent.
Oh, yeah. Rent in New York is insane.
Right. And taxes and just the general cost of, just keeping up can be astronomical.
It's like everything costs twice as much there.
Yeah. You're constantly bombarded with temptations, and it's easy to get swept up in the whole, spend, spend, spend mentality.
It's like a vortex of expenses.
Yeah.
So even though their income looks impressive on paper, their actual cash flow might be pretty tight.
Exactly. It's like having a leaky bucket.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
No matter how much water you pour in, you won't have much left if it's all draining out the bottom.
That's a great way to put it. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep.
Exactly.
And managing those expenses.
Right.
Making sure that leaky bucket is patched up.
Exactly.
Interesting. So this cost of living thing isn't just a New York problem, right? I mean, this applies everywhere, right?
Right. The podcast also talked about how this plays out in Canada, especially in cities like Toronto with its booming housing market.
Toronto, another expensive city.
I know.
It's beautiful, though.
It is, but it's expensive.
Okay, so let's say you've got a young couple in Toronto, both working in tech, pulling in six-figure salaries combined. They probably think they're doing pretty well for themselves.
Right on the surface, they seem financially secure.
But then you factor in their massive mortgage payments, property taxes, and the general cost of living in a major Canadian city like Toronto, and suddenly that picture changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, suddenly that high income doesn't seem quite as impressive.
It's all relative, right? What might be considered a comfortable income in one place could barely cover the basics in another.
So high income doesn't always equal financial stability.
Exact.
It's more about managing that income effectively
Right, making sure your money is working for you, not against you.
and making sure your cash flow is positive.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about the US, we've talked about Canada.
Two very different places, but with a common thread that cost of living can really impact your financial well-being.
The podcast took us to another intriguing location. Dubai?
Dubai. Now that's a place I associate with wealth and luxury.
Right. I always thought of it as a playground for the super rich.
Yeah, private jets, fancy cars, you
Right.
know, the whole 9 yards. Right.
How does this trap work?
Well, Dubai attracts a lot of expats with the promise of high tax-free salaries.
Tax-free? That sounds pretty appealing.
Right, you'd think it'd be a financial paradise.
Right.
But here's the catch. The allure of a lavish lifestyle can be strong.
So it's easy to get caught up in the whole, high-end lifestyle
Exactly.
Dubai has to.
You're into luxury apartments, high-end cars, fancy restaurants. It's easy to get caught up in a cycle of spending that outpaces even those generous salaries.
It's like they trade one form of expense for another.
It's like being given a free pass to a theme park, but then spending all your money on souvenirs and overpriced snacks.
Okay, I like that analogy.
You might have had fun, but you didn't make the most of the opportunity.
So even in a place with no income tax, you can still end up in trouble if you're not managing your spending.
It all comes back to that cash flow, doesn't it?
It does.
It's about being mindful of where your money is going, regardless of how much you're bringing in.
This first rule is already making me rethink some things.
It's a good reminder that financial well-being isn't just about income, it's about managing your money effectively.
Okay, let's move on to rule number 2.
Okay, what's next?
Your debt isn't just a number, it's a strategy.
Whoa, hold on a minute. Now that's a bold statement.
Right.
I feel like we're always told debt is the enemy.
Yeah, it's a common perception.
Avoid it at all costs.
Right, but this rule challenges that.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It reframes debt as a potential tool, something that can be used strategically, especially when it comes to building wealth.
So you're saying debt isn't always a bad thing?
The podcast gave an example from Canada called the Smith Maneuver.
The Smith Maneuver, I've never heard of that.
It's an intriguing concept that essentially allows homeowners to leverage the equity they've built in their homes to invest in the stock market.
So instead of just paying down their mortgage, they're using that equity to potentially generate even greater returns.
Precisely. It's about taking a more active approach to managing your debt and exploring ways to make it work for you.
Okay, so it's not about being debt-free, it's about being debt-smart.
Right, of course, like any financial strategy, it comes with risks and requires careful planning. But the Smith Maneuver shows that debt doesn't have to be a purely negative thing.
It's about using debt strategically as a tool to potentially build wealth rather than letting it weigh you down.
That's a completely different way of looking at it.
It really challenges the conventional wisdom about debt.
And they talked about student loans in the U.S. too.
Oh yeah, student loans a topic that's near and dear to many hearts these days.
I know.
It's often seen as a burden, and it certainly can be.
Right.
But the podcast argued that if that debt leads to a high-paying career in a field like medicine or engineering, it could actually be viewed as an investment.
So it's not just about the amount of the debt.
It's about the potential return on that investment.
Right. If it's opening doors to a career that will ultimately generate a significant income,
It's like investing in your future earning potential.
then maybe it's not such a bad thing after all.
It's a calculated risk, right?
Right.
You're betting on yourself and your ability to leverage that education into a successful career.
Exactly.
Think of it this way. Would you be hesitant to invest in a business that you believed would yield a strong return? In a sense, investing in your education can be seen in a similar light.
Interesting.
It's all about weighing the potential costs and benefits.
And to contrast this, the podcast also touched on Dubai, where they said credit is easily accessible, but the laws around bankruptcy are extremely strict.
Ooh, that's interesting. So it's like a high-risk, high-reward scenario.
Yeah, in Dubai, it's easy to get caught up in a whirlwind of spending and accumulate debt without fully understanding the potential consequences.
And those strict bankruptcy laws add an extra layer of risk to any borrowing.
So even though debt can be a tool, it's clearly not a tool to be used lightly, especially in a place like Dubai.
It's all about being informed, understanding the terms and implications of any debt you take on, and making sure it aligns with your overall financial goals.
This has been eye-opening.
Right. These unwritten rules really challenge us to think differently about money.
So we've learned that high income doesn't guarantee financial well-being, and that debt can be a strategic tool.
What's next on our deep dive into these unwritten rules?
All right, so welcome back to our deep dive into these unwritten money rules, right?
Yeah, the stuff that really gets you thinking.
Yeah, exactly. The things you don't always hear about, you know?
It's like the behind-the-scenes stuff of personal finance.
Right, exactly. And in the last part, we uncovered some pretty surprising truths, like how high income doesn't always equal financial stability.
Right. It's not all about the big paychecks.
And that debt can actually be a tool for building wealth.
Whoa, yeah, that one really blew my mind.
Yeah.
Debt as a tool, who would have thought?
I know.
But it makes sense when you think about it strategically, right?
Yeah, and it's fascinating how these rules apply across different cultures and economic landscapes.
It's like there are these underlying principles that hold true no matter where you are in the world.
Absolutely.
Okay,
So let's keep exploring.
I'm ready for more.
Rule number 3 is saving is for security, investing is for growth.
Okay, that makes sense.
This one seems to be about, finding that balance.
Between playing it safe and taking calculated risks.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like a delicate dance.
It is.
So what's the key to finding that sweet spot?
Well, the podcast used this interesting analogy. They talked about how in The U.S., people often stash their money in low-interest savings accounts thinking they're doing the right thing.
Right, yeah, put it in a savings account, let it sit there safe and sound. But that's where things get tricky,
But
right?
they're actually losing purchasing power over time.
Because of inflation, that sneaky little thief.
Right, exactly. Inflation is constantly chipping away at the value of their savings.
So their money isn't growing fast enough to keep up.
Right, it's like running on a treadmill.
Ooh, I like that one.
You're putting in effort, but you're not actually getting anywhere.
It's like you're working hard, but your money is just standing still.
So while saving is essential for short-term needs and emergencies,
Absolutely. You got to have that safety net.
it's not a strategy for building long-term wealth.
Right. You need something that's going to help your money grow.
Exactly.
Think of saving as your financial foundation.
Okay.
It's there to provide stability and security.
Right. That's solid ground you can stand on.
Investing, on the other hand, is about growing your wealth over time.
Okay. So it's like planting a seed and watching it flourish into a mighty tree.
I love that analogy. It paints such a vivid picture.
And they also talked about how this plays out in Canada.
Oh, Canada, our neighbors to the north.
They talked about how Canadians often underutilize their tax-free savings accounts, or TFSAs, for actual investing.
Really? Why would they do that? TFSAs sound like a great opportunity.
It's ironic because TFSAs are designed to encourage investment growth, but many Canadians treat them like glorified savings accounts.
Ah, so they're missing out on the true potential of those accounts.
Exactly. It's like having a high-performance sports car,
Okay.
but only ever driving it to the grocery store.
You're not taking it out on the open road and really seeing what it can do.
Right.
Investing is about putting your money to work for you.
Exactly.
It's about taking advantage of opportunities to grow your wealth over the long term.
Whether it's through stocks, bonds, real estate.
Or other investment vehicles.
Oh, yeah, there are so many options out there.
Speaking of different approaches, the podcast also contrasted this with the mindset in Dubai.
Yes. Dubai, where cash is king.
Well, there's a strong cultural preference for holding on to cash, often due to economic uncertainty and a desire for liquidity.
Okay, but isn't that counterintuitive?
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't they want to invest their money to make it grow?
You'd think so, but it can lead to what economists call opportunity cost.
Opportunity cost.
It's the potential benefits you miss out on by choosing one option over another.
So by holding on to cash, they're missing out on the potential gains that could be made by investing that money.
Exactly.
So while it might feel safe and secure in the short term, holding on to too much cash could be hindering your long-term financial growth.
It's about finding that balance, having enough savings for security and peace of mind,
Right, you need that cushion.
but also allocating a portion of your funds towards investments that can help you achieve your financial goals.
Okay, on to rule number 4.
Hit me with it.
Taxes are your biggest expense. Manage them. Like one.
Oh, taxes, everyone's favorite topic.
I know, right?
It's tempting to just, bury our heads in the sand when it comes to taxes.
Yeah, pretend they don't exist.
But this rule urges us to be more proactive.
Be strategic about it.
It highlights the often overlooked impact that taxes have on our overall wealth.
The podcast made a great comparison, saying that people will obsess over saving a few dollars by skipping their daily latte,
Yeah, I'm guilty of that one.
but then completely overlook tax strategies that could potentially save them thousands.
It's all about perspective, right? While it's great to be mindful of small expenses
It's even more crucial to understand the bigger picture.
and how strategic tax planning can make a significant difference in your financial life.
They talked about some specific U.S. tax strategies like tax loss harvesting.
Tax loss harvesting, what's that all about?
It's a strategy where you sell investments that have lost value to offset capital gains.
Ah, so you're basically using those losses to your advantage come tax time.
Exactly.
Fine.
It's a smart way to minimize your tax burden and keep more of your hard-earned money.
Okay, that's a good tip.
And for our Canadian listeners, the podcast mentioned a strategy called RRSP optimization.
RRSP optimization. Sounds complicated.
Well, RRSP stands for Registered Retirement Savings Plan.
Okay, that rings a bell.
It's a tax-advantaged retirement savings vehicle in Canada.
So it's like a 401k in the U.S.?
Kinda, yeah.
So what's RRSP optimization all about?
It involves maximizing your contributions to take full advantage of the tax benefits.
Like reducing your taxable income and growing your savings tax deferred.
Exactly.
Sounds like there are many nuances to navigating the tax system.
Whether you're in the U.S., Canada, or elsewhere.
It's like its own little world with its own rules and regulations.
The podcast even touched on Dubai, which is often touted as a tax-free haven.
Dubai tax-free. Now that sounds appealing.
But I bet there's more to the story.
There always is, right?
Yeah. While Dubai doesn't have personal income tax.
Okay.
There are other forms of taxation,
Such as?
like VAT on goods and services.
So it's not entirely tax-free.
Right,
And it's important to be aware of these nuances before you pack your bags and head over there.
exactly. The takeaway here is that proactive tax management is crucial no matter where you live.
It's about understanding the rules of the game and playing it strategically.
Right. It doesn't mean evading taxes, of course.
Of course not.
It's about legally minimizing your tax burden.
And keeping more of your money working for you.
Exactly.
So we've talked about income, cash flow, debt, investing, taxes.
This is a lot to digest.
It is, but it's all valuable information, right?
It is.
What's next on our list of unwritten rules?
Okay, let's move on to rule number 5. Your network can be worth more than your net worth.
Okay, now this one seems a bit less tangible than some of the others.
It does, but I have a feeling it's incredibly powerful.
I agree. I've always believed in the power of relationships.
It highlights the often underestimated value of relationships as a financial asset.
It's not just about what's in your bank account, it's about who you know.
Exactly.
Your network can open doors, create opportunities, and provide support in ways that money simply can't.
The podcast talked about how, especially in the U.S., networking can open doors to job opportunities, investment deals, and valuable business partnerships.
It's like that saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right. And in the U.S., where entrepreneurial spirit is highly valued, networking is seen as a critical component of success.
It's about building relationships, making connections, and leveraging those connections to create opportunities.
And they also mentioned that this is particularly relevant in competitive industries like finance and tech in Canada.
Canada's got a booming tech scene, right?
Yeah. And in those industries, having a strong network can give you a significant edge.
So it's not just about what you know, it's also about who you know.
Exactly. Your network can provide you with insights, advice, and connections that you wouldn't have access to otherwise.
It's about creating a community of support and collaboration.
The podcast contrasted this with Dubai, highlighting its unique expat community.
Dubai is such a melting pot of cultures and backgrounds.
Yeah, and in Dubai, where the business landscape is heavily influenced by expats from all over the world, building a strong network is essential for navigating the complexities in the market.
It's like having a built-in support system when you're in a new and unfamiliar environment.
So whether you're in the US, Canada, Dubai, or anywhere else, building a solid network seems to be a crucial part of achieving financial success.
It's an investment in your future, just like investing in stocks or real estate.
Okay, so we've covered income, cash flow, debt, investing, taxes, and networking.
We're hitting all the major points here.
All right, on to rule number 6. Lifestyle creep is the silent killer of wealth.
Ooh, lifestyle creep. That's a sneaky one.
It's a trap that's easy to fall into, especially as our incomes rise.
Yeah, you start making more money and suddenly you feel like you need to upgrade everything.
The idea is that as we earn more, we tend to increase our spending often without even realizing it.
It's like our expenses magically expand to fill our income.
Right. It's like that saying, more money, more problems.
Well, maybe not problems, but definitely more temptations.
Yeah, we start to think we deserve nicer things, bigger houses, more luxurious vacations.
And before we know it, our increased income is being absorbed by these inflated lifestyle choices.
The podcast used the U.S. as an example, explaining how lifestyle inflation is a big reason why even high earners often feel financially stretched.
In the U.S., where consumer culture is so prevalent, it's easy to get caught up in the cycle of wanting more, buying more, and spending more.
Right. It's like a never-ending race to keep up with the Joneses.
And they mentioned that Canadians often fall into this trap when it comes to housing, especially in expensive markets like Vancouver and Toronto.
Yeah, Canadians love their real estate.
And in those hot markets, it's easy to get caught up in bidding wars and stretch your budget to the limit to secure that dream home.
But that can be a risky move if your income doesn't keep pace with those rising housing costs.
It's about finding that balance between living comfortably and not overextending yourself financially.
Right. You don't want to end up house poor.
Exactly.
And of course, they pointed to Dubai as a place where lifestyle creep can be even more pronounced.
Dubai, with its reputation for luxury and extravagance.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the glitz and glamour and lose sight of your financial goals.
So how do we combat this silent killer of wealth? How do we break free from this cycle of constantly wanting more?
It starts with awareness.
Being mindful of our spending habits.
Track your spending and analyze where your money is going.
See where those leaks are in your financial bucket.
Exactly. And ask yourself, Are there areas where your expenses have increased significantly without a corresponding increase in your happiness or well-being?
It's about being more intentional with our spending and making sure it aligns with our values and priorities.
Precisely. It's about asking yourself, does this purchase truly bring me joy?
Does it contribute to my overall well-being?
Or am I just buying it to impress others or keep up with some arbitrary standard?
It's about breaking free from that consumerist mindset and focusing on what truly matters.
All right, we're down to our final rule.
I can't believe we're already here.
I know it's flown by.
Time flies when you're talking about money.
This one is my favorite. Money buys freedom, not just things.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I think this gets to the heart of why we're all striving for financial success.
It's not about the material possessions, it's about what those possessions represent.
Right. It's about the freedom and choices that money can provide.
It's about having the resources to live life on your own terms.
The podcast talked about a concept from Canada called Coast FI.
Coast FI, what's that?
It stands for Coast Financial Independence.
Okay.
It's a strategy where you invest enough to reach a point where your investments can grow without needing further contributions from you.
So you're basically coasting on your investment.
Exactly. And this allows for more career flexibility.
Because you're no longer reliant on your job for income growth.
Right. You could reduce your hours, take a less demanding role, or even pursue a passion project, all while knowing your financial future is secure.
That sounds amazing. It's like reaching a cruising altitude where you can coast along and enjoy the view.
And they also mentioned the U.S. FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early.
FIRE, I've heard of that one. It's all about reaching financial independence as quickly as possible so you can retire early.
Right. It often involves aggressive saving and investing strategies to build a nest egg that can sustain you for the rest of your life.
It's like putting the pedal to the metal and accelerating towards financial freedom at warp speed.
It's exactly. Both Coast FI and FIRE are about taking control of your financial future and creating a life where you have the freedom to choose how you spend your time and energy.
It's about designing a life that aligns with your values and priorities.
And they connected this idea of financial freedom to Dubai's focus on creating passive income streams.
Passive income, that's the dream, right?
Yeah, in Dubai, there's a strong emphasis on building businesses or investments that generate income without requiring active involvement.
So you're basically making money while you sleep.
Right. This allows for a more independent lifestyle where you're not tied to a traditional job.
So whether it's Coast FI FIRE or building passive income streams, the underlying message is that true financial success is about more than just accumulating wealth.
It's about using that wealth to create a life of freedom and purpose.
It's about aligning your financial choices with your values and living a life that truly reflects your priorities.
These unwritten rules have given us so much to think about.
They really have. It's like a whole new way of looking at money.
They've challenged us to look beyond the surface and really examine what it means to be financially successful.
It's not just about the numbers. It's about the mindset, the strategies, and the choices we make every day.
Okay, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive,
Okay?
I want to leave our listeners with a question.
Hit us with it.
We've talked about how money can buy freedom.
Freedom to do what you love, freedom to spend time with loved ones, freedom to travel the world.
What does freedom look like to you?
That's a great question. It's something we should all be asking ourselves.
What would you do with your time and resources if you had the financial security to live life on your own terms?
It's a powerful thought exercise.
We'll explore this question and delve deeper into practical strategies for achieving financial freedom in part 3 of our deep dive.
Stay tuned, folks. Things are about to get even more interesting.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive, into these unwritten money rules.
We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have, from understanding the true meaning of cash flow
Right, like it's not just about income.
to recognizing the power of networking.
Yeah, your network is like this hidden asset.
It is. And in this final part, we're going to tackle the big question.
Okay, the grand finale.
What does it actually mean to achieve financial freedom?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. It's a question that's, both deeply personal and universally relevant.
Yeah, it means something different to everyone.
In the last part, we left you with a challenge, right?
Remember that.
To envision what freedom looks like to you.
To really picture it.
If you had the financial security to live life on your own terms, what would you do?
What would your ideal day look like?
What dreams would you chase?
What would you finally have time for?
Maybe it's early retirement, traveling the world, pursuing those hobbies you've always put on hold.
Or maybe it's starting that business you've always dreamed of.
Or perhaps it's the freedom to work on projects that ignite your passion without the pressure of a traditional job.
Yeah, working because you want to, not because you have to.
Maybe it's having the resources to give back to your community or support causes you believe in.
Yeah, making a real difference in the world.
The beauty of financial freedom is that it's uniquely defined by each individual.
It's your own personal definition of success.
It's about aligning your financial choices with your values
Making sure your money is working for the life you want to live.
and crafting a life that reflects what truly matters to you.
Okay, so we've got this vision of freedom.
Right, but how do we actually make it happen?
How do we turn this dream into reality?
Now let's explore some practical strategies for turning this vision of freedom into reality.
All right, let's get tactical.
The podcast emphasized the importance of having a clear roadmap, a financial plan that outlines your goals and the steps you need to take to achieve them.
So it's like having a GPS for your financial journey.
It's like setting off on a journey, right?
You wouldn't just start driving without knowing where you're going.
Right, you need to know your destination and have a map to guide you along the way.
Exactly, and that's what a financial plan does for you.
This plan might involve aggressive saving and investing strategies like those embraced by the FIRE movement.
Yeah, FIRE is all about reaching financial independence as quickly as possible so you can retire early.
It could involve building multiple streams of passive income.
Like rental properties or online businesses.
Right, creating income that flows in even when you're not actively working.
That's the dream.
Or it might be a blend of approaches tailored to your unique circumstances and risk tolerance.
Yeah, there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
The key is to be proactive, intentional, and consistent in your efforts.
Yeah, you gotta be in it for the long haul.
And remember, flexibility is essential.
Yeah, life throws curveballs.
Life throws curveballs,
Yeah.
and your financial goals might evolve over time.
Don't be afraid to adjust your course.
Right, correct your path and seek guidance when needed.
Yeah, sometimes you need a little help along the way.
Speaking of guidance, the podcast also highlighted the importance of seeking advice from qualified professionals.
Yeah, like financial advisors, tax specialists, investment managers,
They can offer valuable insights and expertise.
helping you navigate the complexities of the financial world.
It's like having a trusted co-pilot on your journey to financial freedom.
Someone who's been there and done that.
Now let's address the elephant in the room, right?
What's that?
The path to financial freedom isn't always easy.
Yeah, it takes work.
It requires discipline, sacrifice, and a willingness to delay gratification.
Yeah, you gotta be willing to make some tough choices.
There will be challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt along the way,
But it's all part of the journey.
but the rewards are worth it.
Oh, absolutely.
Imagine waking up each morning with a sense of purpose and the freedom to choose how you spend your day.
No alarm clock, no commute, no boss looking over your shoulder.
Imagine having the financial security to pursue your passions, support your loved ones, and give back to your community.
That's the power of financial freedom.
It's about breaking free from the constraints of living paycheck to paycheck
Yeah, not having to stress about money all the time.
and creating a life of abundance and possibility.
A life where you're in control.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought.
Okay, I'm ready.
Financial freedom isn't a destination.
It's not like you reach it and then you're done.
It's a journey, a continuous process of learning, growing, and evolving.
Yeah, it's about constantly improving and adapting.
It's about making conscious choices that align with your values and priorities.
Yeah, being intentional with your money and your life.
And it's about embracing the power you have to shape your own financial future.
You're in the driver's seat.
Remember, you are the architect of your own financial destiny.
You have the power to create the life you want.
It's been an incredible journey exploring these unwritten money rules with you.
Yeah, we've learned so much.
We hope this deep dive has empowered you with knowledge, inspiration, and the confidence to take control of your financial well-being.
Yeah, go out there and make it happen.
Thank you for joining us on the deep dive.
We'll see you next time.